Welcome, and thank you for joining me today. If you've ever walked into a negotiation, whether it's with a client, a business partner, or even in a personal situation, you've probably felt that pressure to speak, to make your case, to fill the silence with your words. But here's a truth that many people overlook. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than words. Today, we're going to discuss one of the most powerful yet underused tactics in business and negotiation: the strategic use of silence. I'm not talking about uncomfortable silence where everyone's shifting in their seats, wondering when the next word will be spoken. No, I'm talking about the kind of silence that works for you, that subtly guides the conversation and gets you the results you want without having to say a single word. Now, this isn't just a trick or some shallow technique. This is about understanding the psychology of silence, how it can trigger responses in the other party, reveal their intentions, and help you control the flow of the conversation in ways that words alone simply can't. In this video, I'm going to show you how to harness this powerful tool to increase your value in negotiations, build better business relationships, and ultimately win more deals. But before we get into the specifics, I want you to think about your own experiences. When was the last time you sat in silence during a negotiation and let the other person speak? If you're like most people, the idea of remaining silent in a negotiation feels a bit unnatural, maybe even risky. But trust me, once you understand how to use silence strategically, you'll begin to realize that it's not a void, it's a tool that can help you create clarity in high-pressure situations, manage emotional dynamics, and lead others to reveal more than they intended to. Let me take you back to a moment early in my career when I realized just how effective silence could be. I was involved in a small but important negotiation with a client. We were discussing the terms of a partnership, and I could feel the pressure mounting. I was nervous about the outcome, and I knew the stakes were high. So, instead of diving straight into counter-offers and justifications, I chose to remain silent for a few moments. It was uncomfortable. I could see the client squirming, trying to fill the silence with words. And that's when it happened. They began to offer more than I expected. They started to reveal their own fears, their concerns about the partnership. And ultimately, I walked away with a far better deal than I initially thought possible. That experience was eye-opening. It taught me that silence isn't just about waiting for the right time to speak. It's about creating space for others to reveal themselves, to feel vulnerable, and to make concessions they might not have made otherwise. Silence, when used intentionally, is one of the most powerful negotiation tools at your disposal. Now let's dive deeper into how silence works. The key to understanding silence in negotiations is realizing that it's not about doing nothing. It's about controlling the flow of the conversation. Think of it like a chess game. Silence is one of your strategic moves that forces the other player to make their next move. When you remain silent, you force the other party to fill that silence. And when they do, they often reveal things they might not have intended to. You see, silence creates discomfort, and that discomfort makes people either rush to fill it with words, or it makes them start questioning their own position. Either way, silence puts you in control. Let's look at a practical example. Imagine you're negotiating with a potential client and they've just made an offer. Now, most people, especially in high-pressure situations, would immediately respond. They would either accept the offer or they'd start negotiating, trying to find a middle ground. But here's the thing. When you rush to fill the silence, you're giving away your position. You're telling the other person that you're anxious, that you need the deal. And that's not a good place to be. Instead, I want you to think about the next time you're in that situation. What if, Instead of rushing to speak, you just paused. Let the other person sit with the silence. Force them to fill that gap. Most people can't stand the discomfort of silence, so they'll start talking just to fill it. And here's the kicker. When they start talking, they often give away more than they realize. They might offer concessions, reveal their true position, or even make a mistake that you can use to your advantage. I want to illustrate this with a simple scenario. Let's say you're negotiating the price of a service with a client, and they offer you a number that's lower than what you're comfortable with. Most people in that moment would jump in and try to counter the offer, maybe argue a bit, explain why their price is justified. But I want you to consider what happens if, instead of rushing in, you just remain silent for a few moments. You don't react immediately. You allow the silence to hang in the air. Now, here's what happens. The other person, uncomfortable with the silence, will often try to justify their position. They might say something like, "Well, I know it's lower than what you were expecting, but we're really working with a tight budget," or, "We've got other options, but we'd really like to work with you." They're revealing their position, showing you where they're willing to budge. And that's when you strike. But silence isn't just about getting more information. It's also about managing emotions, yours and theirs. In business, emotions run high, especially in negotiations. We all have our insecurities, our fears, and our desires, and those emotions can influence the way we behave. When you use silence effectively, you can manage those emotions. You don't allow the conversation to be hijacked by frustration or desperation. You stay calm, composed, and in control. I've been in situations where, after a tense exchange, I would just sit back and let the silence work its magic. The other party, feeling the discomfort, would either backtrack or reveal their true intentions. The beauty of silence is that it forces people to be honest with themselves. And honesty, whether from you or the other party, is the key to successful negotiation. Let's now take a closer look at how silence affects the dynamic between two people. The other party will often start to feel the pressure. They may start talking faster, offering more justifications, or even making concessions just to fill the void. This is especially true when they feel that you're not reacting to their offers. They may interpret your silence as confidence, as if you're not desperate for the deal, and that can make them feel like they need to sweeten the offer. Another thing silence can do is allow you to process information more effectively. In a negotiation, things move fast. Offers, counter-offers, data, all at once. It can be overwhelming, but silence gives you time to think clearly. You can assess the situation without the pressure of speaking immediately. This space lets you process options and make strategic decisions, not impulsive ones. Consider the flip side. Talking too much can disengage others. They might stop listening or feel like they're being sold something. The more you talk, the less power you have, revealing desperation. Silence is crucial for maintaining the upper hand and creating respect. It shows you value their input and are willing to listen. This atmosphere allows real negotiation value to emerge.